Hi everyone. I'm really happy and very, very honored to have an author who has written 12 books and a Norwegian at that, Anne Ostby. I really want to welcome you to my podcast, and I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
So we met up in the mountains one fine day about a couple of months ago,
right.
and we clicked so much that I was so keen to bring you over to my podcast. And last few days I heard that you are leaving Islamabad, and then it was emergency.
Exactly. We had to do it now.
Right. Yes. So basically we are going to talk about things which will be of use to authors and writers. We have a very nice writers group over here in Islamabad. Actually, it's in Lahore based. Awais Khan is an internationally published author, and he has made that group. So he keeps, introducing us to different authors and all. And once you meet an author, you get so inspired, you want to again start writing.
That's good.
So tell me, how did your journey begin as an author? Like, when was your first book? When did you start writing? Why did you start writing?
I always loved to write. It was my favorite subject in school. And I always thought that I will do something with writing. And, in that, I lived in a small town. And I think saying in that environment, I want to be an author, you didn't do that. It sounded too grand, So I always thought, I'm going to be a journalist, because then I will be writing every day, which is what I did. That was my college degree. And so I worked as a journalist for, let me think, more than 10 years. So then my husband started working with the UN. So we started moving abroad, which we have now done consecutively for 33 years.
Wow.
3 or 4 years in every country. And then, of course, after a few years, I did a little freelancing for my old newspaper at home. But it comes a point when the newspaper in Norway doesn't need more articles from Kazakhstan. It's like, you can only do so many. And then I realized that I think that at the bottom of my heart, I'd always wanted to write longer. And then I saw an advert for a competition. It was a young adult novel. We were living in Kazakhstan at the time, in Almaty. So I thought, why not try? So I ended up winning the competition together with 2 others. So that was how my first book was born. It was published in 1999.
And then you flew.
At least I continued.
Yeah. So that was in 1999 when you wrote your first book.
Yeah.
And that was just because of the competition.
It was actually, yes, it was. What turned out, because you were supposed to send in, I think it was 5 chapters plus a synopsis for the competition. So, the prize was that you got to finish and have it published, right? But the editor I worked with said, actually, your synopsis, it's not for 1 book, it's for 3 books.
Wow.
So, make this into a trilogy, which is what I did.
Wow. So you went, and did they support you through it all? Or?
They did. I mean, Norway is kind of a small country. And once you have a good editor, got a good contact in a publishing house, you're sort of, if you're not making too much of a fool of yourself, they will continue to support you.
Wow. I think every publisher is looking for good authors and who are going to come out. And with your traveling and all, you have so much material, to inspire you to write. I've noticed that you write about women in a very sensitive way, and your subject, like the one on happiness, which was your latest book.
This one.
Oh, great. Pictures of happiness.
It's the second to latest one, yeah.
Yeah, this is, tell me a little bit about it.
This book?
Yeah.
This book came out in Norway in 2016, and it's been sold to many countries. So I'm very, very happy about that.
Let me show it. I don't know if we can make a good picture of it. And it's available on Amazon. Yeah.
It is. Yes. So I write in Norwegian, but one of my daughters is an English professor in the US, so she translated it to English. And then an agent picked it up and she sold it to many countries. So now it's been in, 13, 14 languages or something.
Wow.
Actually, this book I had a twofold motivation for this book. I wanted to write a love letter to Fiji. We lived there for 4 years and I loved the country, and I thought I wanted to write some kind of a tribute to the country, and also a topic that interests me. As I am getting a mature woman, I wanted to explore how different cultures view the aging of women. You know, I come from Europe, where you sort of, you know, once, at least when you exit the working life, you're kind of not so interesting anymore.
Oops.
And it's like, you know, who wants to hear your opinion, who values you. And then I lived in Fiji and I realized older women are viewed differently there. It's not, I'm not gonna, you know, paint it very rosy, because it's a very patriarchal society. It's not like, you know, it's not great like that, but older women, they'll have respect, they'll listen to, they're like, you know, they're sort of the matriarchs. So these two were part of the motivation, these two aspects. So that's how this book came about.
Wow. And I remember reading a piece of your writing. It was a short article. You have a very sensitive, a very, I don't know, you have your own style. All I can say is you've got your own style, and the way you walk into the different characters' feet, like their shoes. You're able to connect with the personalities in the characters in your novel, and see their individual point of view.
Well, that's very important if you're trying to have 5 narrative voices, as I do in this book. They each have, you know, they meet up, but they have each a different background. So I let them have the voice, the narrative voice, each in their chapters. So in order not to confuse the readers, even though I use the name on the top of the chapter, they have to have a different language, different style, different favorite expressions, so that you can easily recognize them. And that was something that my editor helped me very much in developing that. And for that, I'm grateful. And I think that's necessary, not to confuse the reader when you have that many persons. Yeah.
I think it takes a very special kind of talent to be able to do that.
A lot of work, at least.
A lot of rewrites.
Yes. As they say, what do they say? Talent is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration.
That is so true. That is so true.
So the way, like, I'm on my 6th book right now. So I feel that each book has its own story.
True.
Isn't it, from beginning to end, and the way it got published?
And also the motivation that made you start it, I think.
Yes.
As I told you earlier, I did one trilogy for young adults, and that's sort of, you know, one followed the other. I had already the synopsis, right, from the beginning, so I followed that through. But the other books have been sort of separate. Well, this one has like a independent sequel. You can read it separately, but I think to read this one first and the other one after will make more sense. But they all come out of an idea, I guess, and a topic, I'd say. And from the topic, you find the story to say something about that topic. Then you find the characters to tell that story. So it's all steps like that. But for me, it always starts with a theme, a topic.
Did you like, you've done journalism, and journalism would be focused more on every type of writing, I guess, but mainly for newspapers and magazines and this, not novel writing as such.
Very different.
Yes.
Very different. But I still think it helped me a lot because to me it's not like I sit down and wait for the big inspiration. It's more like a skill. It's like a job you do, and on those days, and there are many of those days where you sit down and you're really not that inspired, right? But then you just start. So you look at it as a métier, as a work, and I think that helps me a lot because I know it's not always going to be divinely inspired. No, it's just you keep carrying on, and maybe it looks a bit better on the next page. You know,
it's your discipline. I think you have to discipline yourself.
You have to sit down. You have to sit down and face the screen.
So, do you have a particular time of day, a place in your home?
I do have my own place, and I start every day when, now it's just me and my husband when he's off to work. When the kids were with us, it was when they had gone to school and he had gone to work. So I try to at least keep the time until lunchtime. I'm not always good at getting back at it after lunch, but at least those 3, 4, 5 hours in the morning.
Very good. That's really.
Maybe 5 is a bit much. 3 to 4.
I think that's the secret. That's the whole secret. And then you are doing just that and not getting distracted by other chores. And
I'm trying not to. But of course, it's hard when the phone rings.
Yes.
And like every Wednesday, when I've been here in Islamabad, I hike with a group of women. So that Wednesday morning, that's my morning off. Then I go for a hike up in the Margallas. And so on Wednesdays, I don't get much done. But the other day.
And in a little while, we are going to ask Anne, what was she doing this morning? And we'll find out after this break, after you have subscribed to my channel with such wonderful content and wonderful personalities to meet. So be back after this break. See you then. ये हमारी एक यंग साइकाइट्रिस्ट हैं, डॉक्टर तहलील जावेद। इस सोशल मीडिया के आने से नफ़रतें और बढ़ गई हैं। तो जब मैंने ये बात कही तो तहलील ने क्या कहा?
सोशल मीडिया ने वो एक मास्क प्रोवाइड कर दी, एक हिडन आइडेंटिटीज़ के कोई कुछ भी कहेगा, वो बात मुंह पे आके तो आपको बंदा नहीं कहेगा कभी भी, लेकिन ये जो मास्क्स होते हैं इसने वो चीज़ बहुत इनेबल कर दिया है। इसके अलावा फिर आपको इन नेगेटिव वेव भी, आपके नेगेटिव कनेक्शंस भी इस्टेब्लिश हो जाते हैं। एक अगर आपने पब्लिकली किसी का मजाक उड़ाया है और 10 लोग जो है आपके लाइक करें, कमेंट करें उसका, तो आपको लगेगा कि हाँ मैं ठीक हूँ, आपको वो वैलिडेशन भी मिल रही है।
Good to have you all back, and I hope you all did subscribe to the channel, right? And so you want to know what Anne was up to this morning. I couldn't believe what she's been up to. She's busy packing up her house. She's going to leave, but in spite of that, what did you do?
I got up before 5 and I met my hiking group, my Sunday hiking group at 5:30 at the parking lot of Trail 4, and we did the whole Trail 4 loop. It's about 11 kilometers. Oh. So, you know, at 9:30, I was back after having done the loop, and then we had a nice breakfast with some friends, and yeah, I'm sure I'm going to be very tired tonight.
Oh gosh, I would have collapsed after that.
No, but it's nice to go early, and the Trail 4 is quite shady, so it was a beautiful hike.
Would you believe me if I told you that I really don't know where Trail 4 is? I know 3, I know 5.
No, you take off Margalla Road where you would go to the zoo, you know?
Yes, yes.
And then you go left past that police thing there, the post, yeah. And then you see the exit to Trail 2, and then you go for, I don't know, maybe 1.5 kilometers. Then there's a very visible sign to the parking lot of Trail 4 on the left.
Oh,
so
yes.
You go that way, you can't miss it.
I got you. Okay, that's a nice area. Nice. So you walked 11 kilometers today?
Yes.
In the mountains.
Yes.
Wow.
But it's lovely, and it's the right time to do it, because we have been doing this, you know, every Sunday, and we usually started around 7:30. But this time we thought it's going to be so hot and it's a long trail, so let's start. And about 10 of us showed up.
Wow, 10 of you. Yeah. All of you. Action. Action.
It was very nice. It's really good.
So, tell me, which book do you think, coming back to the books, which book do you feel is your baby, or, you know, more attached to this book?
I think maybe this one is the one that most people have liked, I think. It's kind of lightweight, but still it's called, you know, people like to call it, it's feel good, but it's also a little bit feel sad, because I think feel good also needs a little bit of feel sad. Yes. It is about, you know, women and female friendship, and it's about chocolate. It's a lot of chocolate in here. So I think maybe this one, maybe because this is the one that I've had most response to. And it was fun to write, actually. It was kind of a fast first draft, because I had this idea and I thought, I like these women. I laughed as I wrote. It's not often that you laugh as you write, right? So maybe this one, yeah.
Pieces of Happiness. Yeah. So when did you write this? Is this your 12th book?
No, this is my 11th book. 11th. So I've written one after that. Oh. So, it was written during, I have to think, I think I maybe started in 2014, because, you know, there's a time lag after, you get it, after the publisher says,
Publishing,
we're going to take it, then, there's the translation and there's the, for this edition. But I think the Norwegian one came in 2016, I wrote it in 2015, and it was sold to several other countries during 2017, 2018.
So who did the translations, and did the publisher get them done?
Well, this one, it was translated to English by my daughter, and my agent is in the US, so she cannot read Norwegian, so she took the English manuscript, and she's the one who sold it to Spain and Italy and Brazil and China, and so that goes through her. So those translations are done by the publishers in those countries, because they take the English version and then they translate it.
Wow. So it's your daughter who...
She's done the English version, yeah.
A big job.
Yeah.
A great job.
And we have this in common. We both have 3 grown daughters.
That's right, yeah.
And I think it's the greatest blessing on earth to be mother of 3 daughters.
Absolutely.
Only one who's been there can know what a great joy it is.
Exactly.
Yes. So hi to all 3 daughters. And I'm sure you must be very proud of your mother. And I just met her for a little while, and I really loved the time I spent. And I remember I was just ignoring all the other guests, and I was just,
We happened to be sitting at the same table, right? And we realized that we were both writers, and then...
we couldn't stop talking, both of us. So you've been to Islamabad 4 times.
Yes.
Did you say when the first time you said, oh God?
It was in 1993. My youngest, who's turning 30 this year, was a 3-month-old baby.
Oh.
So, yeah.
So what did you feel when you were to come, and then what did you feel when you came?
I do remember we came to the old airport.
Yes, the Rawalpindi
And we
one.
came at dawn, and we drove into Islamabad, and it was kind of, half dark, and I saw the city coming in front of me. I saw the Margalla hills, I saw the Faisal Mosque, and there was this feeling of, wow, this is where I'm going to live. It was almost unreal, and then we came to the house, and it was so different from anything that I'd ever experienced.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
And you enjoyed it?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the best place for children to grow up in.
You know what? It was easy for us. I come from a place where not very many people have domestic help. I had a nanny. It was like I had the baby, and the second one was a year and a half, and then I had a schoolgirl. So it was really helping with getting everything settled. And the school was really good. They went to the international school. There was a small kindergarten in the neighborhood called the Children's House. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was a lovely place for the 2 youngest ones. So,
So you put your daughter in a local kindergarten?
yes, the Children's House had a lot of English-speaking kids.
Yeah.
And it was close to our house, so I could just, take the stroller in the morning. The baby didn't go there for the first year. The first year I had a nanny at home, but the middle one, who was a year and a half, 2 years old, she went there. And later on, the baby also followed when she was walking and a little older.
How nice.
Yep.
So your children must be having childhood memories of
they do.
Islamabad.
The oldest one was, she was 8 when we came here, and she has had, through this, different periods we've lived here, she has had 7 of her school years here. She graduated from the international school.
Really? Really? So what have they done? Which fields have they gone into?
The older one, she went straight on from there to the US to study, and she stayed there, and she went to another college to do her master's and her PhD, and she met her husband, and she stayed. So she has lived there ever since. She's an English professor at a college, and she translates my books. And she has given us a granddaughter who is now 19 months. Yeah.
Wow.
We see too rarely because she lives in the States. The middle one is getting married this summer. She met her husband to be in Fiji.
Okay.
Is from there.
He has lived in Norway for the last 3 years. They're getting married this summer. She is biochemist. She did her doctorate in biochemistry last year. And the youngest one is the artist of the family. She plays music, she paints, she works at the restaurant.
Oh, okay.
So,
And where is she?
the youngest one is in Trondheim, that's in Norway, and the one who's getting married this summer, she's also in Norway, but they're not in the same city. And the oldest one is in the US.
Okay. When I was very small, I was like 5 years old, and my home always had a picture of a fjord. You know, I don't know how you
Yeah,
pronounce
you
it.
say that.
It was a fjord. And I used to always look at that picture, and then mom told me this is Norway. And I just always wanted to go to Norway, always.
Then why don't you?
Maybe one day.
One day.
And then I heard that you can see the northern lights from there. Oh my God. So have you seen northern lights?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yes.
So which color ones were they?
They are yellowish, greenish. You know what my mother used to say? You know, they come like waves. And she always said, this is God shaking out his blankets.
Oh,
I like that.
Oh, too much gold dust here.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could see from where I grew up. I grew up in the sort of middle part. You know, Norway is very fat at the bottom and very narrow. So I grew up in the narrow part. So that's kind of the middle of the country. So when we walk to school in the morning, like 8:30 in the winter, it would be dark. We walk home at 3, it's still dark, dark again. And that's when we could see it sometime when we walked home from school. And of course, the further north you go, the more spectacular it is.
Really? So did you go further north to see the northern lights?
I saw them from where I grew up, but I have not been very far. I have not been to the northern tip of Norway, which is a shame. I've been in so many other places. But that's one of the things we can do now when we go home for good.
Yes, really.
Now that your husband is retiring, a whole new life is in front of you.
Yeah.
Are you all full of plans, or are you just saying, okay, we'll take it as it comes?
I sort of imagine that I'll be able to, do what I'm doing. I'll have my writing little desk, my spot, and keep writing. He says at the moment he doesn't want to have any plans, but he's a very handy guy, so he'll do things around the house. He has a motorbike, which he likes, and we have been lucky to have friends at home who have sort of kept in touch, and we look forward to spend time with them. So, and hopefully we can travel a bit in Europe. You know, we've been mostly in Asia, South Asia, Central Asia. So my kids have never had a vacation in Paris or Vienna.
So that's
One of the things you want to do, want to travel in Europe by train.
Wonderful.
My dream, yeah.
Great. And not by road.
You know, train, I think it is much more environmentally friendly, and it's also more relaxing. And I feel like we should probably use train more and car less these days, and plane even less.
My husband and I did that. We used to be in Kuwait. My husband and I were there in 1983. And within a year, in 1984, we went off on a trip which nobody had ever done before with a 1-year-old child. And because of the child, we went by train. From Kuwait, we flew to Turkey. And from there, we, including Turkey, it was 10 countries in 20 days.
wow.
All through Europe.
That was efficient.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Germany and Yugoslavia and Belgium, Bulgaria, not further, not the Scandinavian countries, and not even Greece or Rome
Okay.
and Spain. We went to Austria. We went to the Salzburg, the sound of music.
Yeah.
So we had a trip of a lifetime. Yeah. We had a bit of a fright in Belgrade. My husband had got off the train because the Euro train that we had embarked on didn't have a dining car. Can you imagine?
There was no food on the train?
And the only thing that was being served was hard drinks and popcorn and chocolates. I mean, we just couldn't understand how come. We come all with this mind that there'll be a dining car and, we'll have food there and all. And it wasn't there. So my husband got off at Belgrade to get the local currency and get some food for us and all that. And the train started moving.
Oh my gosh.
Can you believe it?
And the train was moving in such a way that the last bogie was standing there and the others were moving. And suddenly my husband turned and saw that the train is going. And I realized it also. And there was this, I just ran out and onto the
The platform?
no, not the plot, the
train was
Inside the corridor,
very
yeah.
fast.
Inside the corridor, and to tell somebody that I have my husband there, and there was this compartment full of, you could see those men were stark drunk. I didn't want to tell them that I was looking for what do they call the
Conductor?
Yeah.
conductor or somebody. Nobody inside. And I was rushing back to my own compartment to pull the,
The brake?
Yeah.
The emergency brake?
Yeah, so I was just going to go there, and then I see my husband getting from the thing. Oh my God! And he saw him, he had been a marathon runner.
oh,
Oh,
So it was
using his skills.
oh God, he managed to catch the last bogey, and he came, so we had a bit of a...
Oh, yeah. No, better be
On the train on time.
But anyhow, it was a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I'm sure you all will enjoy it. I'm looking
Um,
forward to it. Yes, and it's always good to have something you've never done before to do something again. So, so would you be doing it with your family or just the two of you?
It depends if the girls have time to spend. Well, I mean, we're going to be retired. We will have time. They are still in their jobs. They have to, the 3 weeks of vacation or whatever. But of course, we hope to travel with them too. And the girls who live in Norway, they live in 2 different cities. So we will be traveling to see them, of course.
How wonderful, how wonderful. That'll be great. So I think a whole new chapter of your life is going to begin.
I think so. It will be strange, though. We've been on the move for 33 years.
Yes, yes. And it's, as my dad used to say when he retired, he said it's even more busy than before.
People say, I don't know how I ever had time to work. That's what people say. So we'll see.
Yes, when you just get down to it, then, So what are your husband's hobbies? Are they connected with yours or something different?
Not really. I mean, he reads a bit, but I think that he's looking forward to being able to read more now. Not only work documents. As I've mentioned, he has a motorbike, which he's very fond of that one.
Oh.
And he likes hiking. He's a runner, actually. He runs. I don't run. When he runs, I walk. So I hope we can continue to do that.
Oh.
But we will also be hiking for sure.
And you are not into motorbiking?
I mean, actually, I did. When I was young, I did have my own license. It's
Okay.
expired years ago. But yeah, when I met him, he was very cool. He had a ponytail, a big motorbike. And I was smitten. So, also maybe a little...
It's a possibility.
It was, I decided, I'll also get my license. So I did that.
You need a different license for motorbike.
Because it's a big one. It's not a small one. It's not what you see on the road there. It's like, it had a 750, now it's a huge Harley Davidson. So, so I did that. And we did some trips together down the continent before we had kids. But it was mostly him driving. He drives a little faster than me. But now I'm more of a passenger, I would say.
So you'll sit at the back and just enjoy.
And I don't think I would go, we drove to Spain in those days.
Oh, how much fun from Norway.
But I wouldn't do that anymore.
How much time did it take?
We drove, we would stop. I mean, we would spend 1 or 2 nights on the way in the tent. We were young, right?
In tents?
Camping, sleeping, This was before we were married, before we had kids.
What?
So, yeah.
And how was Spain?
That time it was, I guess, different from today. I mean, I haven't been for many, many years. Because what Norwegians do, right, when they finally get summer vacation, they want to go for the sun, which you cannot count on that in Norway. So they will book their vacation, go to Spain or go to Italy or France. And I'm sure tourism is a lot more, hectic than it was. I'm talking early 80s now. Yeah.
Early 80s, that's when we were traveling. Exactly. My husband and I did a lot. We used to love traveling by car.
Right.
Driving, my husband would be driving. We did a lot of driving in Saudi Arabia. And, we would go for the Hajj, the Umrah. So we did that, and we loved the traveling. And we would go alone. Mostly people would go in caravans, 5, 6 cars together. But we wouldn't. We would just go on our own and just enjoy ourselves. Even in Kuwait, we would discover new places to travel, and people would say, "What is there in Kuwait?" We say, "Oh, there's plenty."
I'm sure.
When you get around.
I think we will continue traveling, but I'm thinking now it's our time to discover Europe.
Once we were in California, And we went to a restaurant. And when we got out, there was this group of about 15, 20 bikers, with those heavy bikes and all, and there were a lot of ladies in them. And I looked at them with leather jackets and whatnot, and mainly our age group, And I just looked at them and I said, oh God, isn't that fun, What fun, what a lovely idea, just,
I was trying on my old leather jacket from the 1980s. I think it was last summer. I could squeeze it on, but just barely. And I'm thinking maybe I'm done with that.
Get a new one. Okay. What about pets? Do you like pets?
I grew up with cats. I grew up in the countryside. And when we lived in Islamabad the second time, we had 2 dogs. The only time we've had dogs. So both of them are now sadly deceased. But when I come back, I have another plan as a retired lady. I want to have chickens because I want to have eggs because I like to bake. So I want to have my own eggs.
Organic eggs. Oh, wow. Who's going to take care of the chickens?
That'll be me. After my husband has built the shed. He's actually very handy. So he's he's very handy. He will do that.
I have lately started my vegetable patch. Yeah, for organic food in our house. But I was thinking of the chicken on the roof, but I said, who's going to do all the cleaning up? They're going to be a bit of a handful.
Yeah, I'm not planning to have many, 4 or 5, just so that I can have eggs.
Keep them in control.
Yes.
Okay, tell me a bit about life in Norway, like having such little light to live in half the year, 6 months. And they say that there's a lot of suicide rate and depression and all, mainly caused due to that.
I think a lot of people are affected by it. We don't live far north. Actually, I grew up in the middle of the country, but now we live about 2 hours north of Oslo, so it's the south part, so we don't have that 6 months of winter.
I see.
We have shorter days, yeah, for sure. Maybe we have daylight from, at the darkest period, maybe between 10 and 2:30, so it slowly gets darker. But in the summer, we compensate by, almost 24 hours of light, right? We have these light summer nights, which is when nobody wants to go to bed. So, but it is true that some people are getting very depressed, and yeah, sure, we have suicide rates that are not pretty.
Yes. Lately, actually, in Pakistan, it was almost unheard of to have a suicide case or something because there's so much family involvement and everything. But lately, these things have started, and I'm, feeling very concerned about it. That how we are there, and how come anybody should think so?
And especially among young people, that's where the numbers are ugly. Yeah.
Yes.
So that is the sad part, and one wants to, reach out to them. And I started mentoring and counseling just like that because person feels so alone. You want them to not feel alone, and they should feel there's somebody who's there for them to listen to them.
Because COVID has not helped at all. That cooped a lot of young people up, and that of course triggers.
Yeah, it triggers
depression. Yeah.
Yeah, so is there, though I know, we have a group here which is called the PANA, which is Pakistan Association, let me figure it out, Norway, and Pakistan and Norway Association, something like that. And Atle, as
I know of him, I think I met him once, but he's a staple here in Pakistan. Yeah.
And he has that, we have regular meetups over there. And then he informs us about how well Norway has managed its own economics, how well it has arranged all its finances. It is, all the people are very well taken care of, and they have even planned for the future, and they are ready for so many years ahead.
It's not all rosy, of course, absolutely not. But I think we've been luckier than most. We found oil in the 70s. That's where we struck gold, because we used to be quite, we used to be the poor little brother in the north. We were the poor little brother of Denmark and Sweden, And then we struck oil, and then everything changed. and we had this boom, and suddenly we needed a lot of labor. A lot of people came to work in Norway. But of course now the world is different, right? We have to scale down. We cannot depend on fossil fuel anymore. So, but during those years, I think Norway managed that wealth very well. We have what we call the oil fund, which is like, a buffer for the state, and that is how we managed to get through financially through COVID. I wouldn't say excellently, but better than most, because the government decided this is when we need to use this money to help businesses that let's say restaurants, hotels, they all stopped.
Yes,
right?
hospitality was
Exactly, all that kind of industry,
Yes.
and a lot of other businesses. So they got compensation from that money.
which was not the case in almost.
Exactly, we could do it because we had that fund.
You all had the fund and you all used it wisely. And even Pakistan has oil, but then we have such a horrendous population that everything gets sidetracked because of that.
You mean the number of people?
Yes.
So, like in Canada, you hardly see any human beings. Here, you pick up a stone and people come crawling out from underneath,
But I just heard the numbers because it was just the census, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know if the numbers are official, but you're talking about close to 250 million now. And when we came in '93, I think the number was, if I'm not mistaken, 122 or something. So in 30 years, it's doubled. That's something.
And then if they don't manage it, there's going to be a blast. One of these fine days, we will be breaking the seams or something. But the thing is that it's a matter of management. It's a matter of human resource management, and it's taking on, owning the people and helping them along and all that. Where we haven't yet got down to, But where I see in Norway, every citizen is taken care of by the government. Everybody is, especially like education.
It sounds maybe better than it. I mean, not everybody would say that. We're all totally happy. We have very good education system, which is free. Even at university level, you only pay like a semester fee, and of course you pay for your living and your books. But you don't have, if you compare to the States, for example, where the college fees are
Exorbitant.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
So in that sense, yes, and we have a fairly good health system. Of course, people are also, not everybody is happy. You have to wait in line for a lot of things, but compared to other places, it's fairly good. So, but then again, we pay high taxes, and I can understand why, because I've been in other places where I see, the state has no income. Then how do you have a good health system? How do you have a good education system? Yeah. So there is a reason. I'm not saying I'm happily paying my taxes, but in a way, we do, because this is.
You see your taxes being used in a positive manner, and you are happy that at least you see the results
Of what you have.
paid. So then you don't feel bad paying about it. Like now, when I was in Canada, in Halifax, there is a 15%. 15% over everything you buy, you pay 15% more.
You mean like the VAT, the tax?
Yeah, the tax. And we'll come back after a break to tell you what else you have, what is the tax that every average person in Canada pays to get all those health benefits and all that. So be back, all of you, after you have nicely subscribed to my channel, have your cup of tea, your coffee or your juice, and I'll be looking forward to meeting you again. We have some nice things to talk about. मैं आज वेलकम कर रही हूँ सादिया मजीद को अपने पॉडकास्ट पे, और खुश आमदीद।
बहुत शुक्रिया आपका। थैंक यू शिरीन।
एनीथिंग यू वांट टू शेयर?
अपनी हम उम्र ख़वातीन के लिए ये कि आप इस एज में जाके आप किसी के ऊपर ये ना सोचें कि कोई आपको खुशियाँ ला के देगा, कोई नहीं ला के देगा। आपने अपने लिए खुशियाँ खुद ढूंढनी है। आपने कोई अपनी एक्टिविटी पॉजिटिव, जो आप पूरा बचपन से कभी मसरूफियत के दिनों में सोचती थी कि मुझे टाइम मिले तो मैं ये करूं, चाहे वो क्रोशिया हो, चाहे वो सिलाई हो, कढ़ाई हो, केक बनाना हो, खाने बनाने हो, सैर करनी हो, कुछ भी करना हो, तो वो अब टाइम है आपके पास।
Welcome back. So we were talking about Canada and the taxes they pay. So the person over there pays, the person who's doing very well pays 54% tax. And the others who are doing slightly lesser, 40% of their income goes into the tax. So it's a sizable amount, and there's no way that you can not give it. You give it. So how is it in Norway?
We also have what we call a progressive tax system. The higher the income, the higher the tax. So yeah, I mean, to pay 40% plus is not unusual.
Wow, that's hell of a lot.
But you get a lot back. You know, the UN has these indexes. They call it the happiness index. It's called something else. But you know, the Nordic countries where you have this model more or less, we score quite high. So that means that even if people do pay high taxes, they're not totally unhappy with it, right?
They are happy because they are seeing it being used for their own benefit.
And we, you know, since the Second World War in Norway, we've had a more or less, you know, Labour Party government, not all the way through, but mainly. So this is in our backbone, you know, this socialist way of thinking. You know, you contribute and you share.
Yes.
That's with us. Yeah.
And I think one happily does it wherever. And here, you know, people do not want to pay taxes. They try to avoid. And my
Norwegians do too if they can, but we can't.
Thing is
that we have to pay taxes. First, we have to be good examples and be good citizens, then start demanding. Like, what have we done for the country? As opposed to asking, what has the country done for us? And we see all these, like the PIMS hospital, we see all the roads networks, and we see, you know, the floods that happened last year. You know, of course, we got a lot of aid from a lot of countries, but basically, immediately, it was the country itself which was, you know, trying to do whatever it could to help the people get through the tough initial stages of the big calamity that took place. So anyhow, you were telling me something very interesting, that you have been to a residency this January, and that's where authors meet.
Authors and other artists, yes. Yeah.
So tell me all about it.
This is a place where I've been, I think it was the 4th or 5th time that I've been there. It's a place in Ireland that I just happened to discover. I think I was there for the first time in 2012 or something. It's a long time ago. It's a manor house which used to belong to, I think he was a theater director called Tyrone Guthrie. And as far as I understand, he died childless, and he bequeathed the whole thing to, I think it's a trust. And it's also supported by the Irish Art Council. So you apply for a spot there. You can apply for a week or maybe even a weekend or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I have been there, like I said, 4 times. Every time I think a month. Once I could only get a spot for 2 weeks, but that was too short. You come there and you just sit there and work. You can interact with other artists as much as you like, really, or you can stay to yourself in your room and do your writing. Some of these residencies, they only cater to, let's say, only musicians or only visual artists or only dancers. But this place, it has a little bit of both. It has a separate dance studio, it has visual art studios, and it has these little, what they call cottages in the back, which I think used to be the stables, because this is an old manor house, so it has like, and those stables are converted into small apartments. I prefer to stay there because it's more private. But then you can go into the main house if you want to have a coffee and a chat with other artists, and you always meet so many wonderful people.
And all like-minded, you know?
Everyone is there to get some work done. So you do seriously work. But then in the evenings we'd sit and we'll share something, we read something that we have done, or somebody will play a piece of music, or it's a lovely place. And I'm already thinking I want to go back next year.
What's the name of the place?
The place is called the Tyrone Guthrie Center, after the guy who lived there. And it's about, you fly to Dublin, you take a bus for about an hour, and it's quite remote on the lake. So the last little, I don't know, half hour, you have to go by taxi. That's the only way to get up there.
Yay.
It's a beautiful place. Yeah.
Yes, even in America, I was seeing that there were a lot of like places where artists can just go for 3 days or a week or something. And England also has
They're all over the world, actually. Yeah.
Not except in Pakistan. I think it's a beautiful idea which needs to be floated in Pakistan, and we all artists and writers and all need to get together and go camping and stay together for a while and just talk it out. I usually have meetups for artists and writers,
Right.
and we meet for about an hour or two. And it was pre-COVID times.
Yeah.
Now we are trying to revive it.
Absolutely. No, it's good.
So I think now our time has flown.
I know.
Absolutely flown. So, what would you like to tell authors who are, still struggling to write their first book, or they're trying to get to writing? How do you?
I think everybody's journey is different. But I think if you want to write, I think it's about quantity. Just keep writing. Read a lot. Read a lot. Even if you don't think you're learning, or if you don't think you're noticing, it helps. And just keep writing, and don't expect it to be perfect the first time, because the first draft is actually the easy part. It's the revision and the revision and the revision, which is the hard part, which takes forever. My agent always calls it a marathon, and it is, because the first 10 kilometers or maybe even the first 5 kilometers are okay. Then it starts getting hard.
Yeah.
But you'll get there.
I was reading this book, The Grit, and it says all the talented people were not there just due to their talent, it was their grit.
It is work.
It's work.
Yeah, it is work.
Solid work, and then you get somewhere. And like you are doing 4 to 5 hours every day.
You start.
Let's call it 3 to 4, not to exaggerate.
3 to 4.
First 3 to 4 hours of the day you spend in your writing.
I do. It's not always a lot of pages coming out. Sometimes I write half a page, and I may end up deleting it by the end of the day. But at least you get up and get to the screen. Yeah.
Very.
Anything you will miss about Pakistan?
I was just mentioning the Margalla Hills. Definitely, it's been a refuge. It's been a place to breathe. It's been a place to get away from everything. But apart from that, of course, the people. It's always the people. I mean, Pakistani people are so helpful. I don't think I've been anywhere, but people are so going out of their way to help you. This is a place where you run out of gas. There will be 10 people around you helping you push your car before you even. This is to me the way people meet me. Always are always
Yes.
helpful.
And what about the food?
The food. I was just saying to a friend this morning that I'm ashamed that I haven't learned to cook a proper curry. But there's always a YouTube video, right?
Oh my God.
God, that's always.
I'm going to miss that.
So, which of the dishes did you like the most?
I do like a good fish curry.
Really?
Yeah.
Fish curry.
As well. But fish curries, you don't get that very often.
Not very often. My mother used to make.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, a good curry, and of course a good dal. My husband makes dal, but he has to practice. That's one of the things he said that he wants to do in retirement. He wants to get better at cooking. So I'm
Wow.
looking forward to not cooking at all for the next year or so.
Chef cooking in the house.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm
you.
so grateful to you for taking out the time,
Thank you for having me.
coming over in spite of being busy. God bless you and wish you a wonderful time
Thank you.
for the rest of your life. Wish you are very, very happy, healthy, wholesome, a life full of dreams coming true.
Oh, same to you. Same to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. God bless you all.